All right, welcome to another Masters of Breath. Of course, the idea here being that people have been exploring breath work for numerous purposes for a very long time, and today I just want to take a little bit of time to talk about Stanislav Grof. So Stan Grof is an absolute pioneer in breath work and a really interesting individual, and certainly his work and life have been very controversial. He has a background in psychiatry, and in fact, Stan Grof originally is from the Czech Republic and has operated at numerous prestigious universities in the United States, including Johns Hopkins. Now, he was one of the very early and seminal researchers behind psychedelic therapy and psychiatry, which, of course, most of us know is becoming in vogue once again as a legitimate resource for treating true psychiatric problems like post-traumatic stress disorder, addiction, depression, anxiety, and more. Now, Stan's area of research in the 60s was mostly focused around LSD, and then once LSD got rescheduled as a class 1 narcotic, he wasn't able to work with it anymore, and rather than going underground and continuing to do therapy with it, which some people did, Stan chose to move his focus towards breath work. Now, Dr. Grof, in addition to his work in psychiatry, also had a very deep interest in shamanic healing practices and how tribal cultures dealt with mental health disorder. And one of the things that was very common is that not only through psychedelic means, but also through other non-ordinary states of consciousness, they help people resolve traumatic issues. And based on some of this work, Dr. Grof has basically been doing deep breath work in what's called holotropic breath work. And this breath work is actually not too dissimilar from Wim Hof style breath work in that it is a purposefully induced hyperventilation technique, or what we in our work in the art of breath approach would call superventilation. And so it actually gets people to purposefully and continuously superventilate, and it induces some changes in chemistry in the brain. At least that's the hypothesis. And then as a result, people can access deep traumatic experiences and then make some shifts in their awareness around that, and then hopefully and potentially negative behaviors associated with it. Now, one of the really cool things about this, and of course this is just a postulation, there's no evidence, is that when we look at things like psychedelic therapies, as they become more and more in vogue and they become the focus of more and more research, is that what they seem to be doing is affecting the serotonergic systems, right? So the part of your brain that releases serotonin, and basically our brain reorganizing our experiences around that, and our connections in the brain is one of the things that helps with things like post-traumatic stress or addiction. What's really cool is that we're starting to find that in some research it will show that with certain rhythms and patterns of breath work, it may also be possible to reorganize neural connections in the same or in a similar way. So regardless of Dr. Grof's very controversial work and whatever your feeling is about psychedelic drugs, he was one of the very, very first people to really be thinking forward about there are other ways to scientifically induce and change the physiology and chemistry in our brains that allow us to access deeper layers of our consciousness that are driving our conscious behaviors. So thank you very much, Dr. Grof, for your work and for highlighting a really, really important space that we can all learn from.